Hey folks, what makes this toy great? We're looking at G1 Perceptor. And Perceptor was released in 1985 and introduced in season 2 of the cartoon series, although he had a very prominent role in the 1986 movie, so a lot of us think of him as a movie character. The toy was also a triple changer, although it wasn't promoted that way. He was a robot with a gigantic shoulder cannon. He was a working microscope. And then he also had this kind of obscure third mode, which was a tank mode. It's maybe more like a seated artillery station. And many of us who had this toy didn't even realize that he had extendable tank treads in his feet. So we'll take a tour of this toy, and in particular, I'll point out the weak spots. If you're trying to acquire one, there are several places where he tends to fail. And then we'll park on the microscope mode. There's a feature that's totally unique to Perceptor that I'll show you. It's one that you may never have seen in action. Taking a close look, by far, the most fragile piece on this entire toy is this clip that attaches the scope to the torso. They often look like this, and I've been guilty of breaking one myself. They're just that fragile because of this brittle blue plastic. An interesting feature is this thumb wheel that extends the head during transformation. That's actually quite sturdy. Another weak point are these black flaps on his shoulders that are often missing. They're like the shoulder pauldrons, and the reason they open up is to create clearance for the transformation where the upper arms collapse against the body. Another weak point is related to the microscope apparatus. We've got a mirror and also a slide tray, and you have to open them up in the right order. Mirror first, then chest, and when you close them, do it in the reverse order. That's the only way everything clears. Those are often missing, right? Broken off, or if they're present, because of how shiny both pieces are, they're often scratched up. And here's the tank tread. Relatively few of us even realized it was there. And the tank mode is interesting. Like I said before, it looks kind of like an artillery station. You could imagine a little pilot sitting there. Although this is not a Diaclone toy, so it wouldn't be a Diaclone pilot. Perceptor came from Microchange. And with all those interesting details, what makes this toy great is that he's a functional microscope with magnification. Here's a look at an original G1 toy catalog, which confidently claims he magnifies up to 1 times. Now, that's clearly a typo. It's supposed to say 14, as you can see on this sticker that's on his arm. And you'll also notice that the prototype in the photo is totally red. As far as I know, that's never actually been released as a variant or a version of Perceptor. Now let's get into the function of the microscope itself. Those two knobs on the sides are just dummy knobs. They're for show. But the one on the scope itself is actually functional. It moves the objective lens to control the magnification. And here's a view through the eyepiece lens, and I'm going to try to show you what it actually looks like through this working microscope. And to help us, I've got a penny, and I'm not going to put the penny on the stage, which is that slide tray, because it's a toy and nothing quite fits right. I'm just going to hold it with my tweezers and see if we can get things into focus. And because this is a functioning microscope, it actually has one of the characteristics of a real microscope, which is it reverses the image. So you can actually see my tweezers on the right side of the screen. As I move them up, the image moves down. As I move them to the right, the image moves to the left. And that's actually totally normal. So that was heads. Now we'll look at tails. Just going to flip the penny over. And I'm actually really impressed with how clear this is. I don't think I had ever sat down to look closely through this eyepiece to see how the microscope functioned, but it's bringing back some good memories. When I was a kid, I actually had a microscope set that came with little slides, like a butterfly wing that I could look at under the microscope. So this is reminding me a lot of that. So, what makes this toy great aside from being an undercover triple changer? Well, it's definitely the functional microscope that magnifies up to 14x. You may have heard about it and you knew it existed because of your acquisition of Transformers trivia, but maybe you never actually witnessed it with your own eyes, and now you have. So, if you like this sort of thing, I hope you'll take a look at the other videos on the channel. We talk about trivia and history and little engineering details, and we also do a lot of repair techniques. So I hope you found this information useful. Say hi in the comments, and we'll see you next time.